Hello, everyone. My name is Samuel Genus, AI automation consultant, full stack developer, business and technology coach, and public speaker. I help businesses improve their prospect list, their website traffic, their leads and customers by a minimum of 10%. And I help improve their business process by at least 50%, all the while saving them time and money. And I do that with AI automation, marketing funnels, and CRM strategies. Today, I want to talk to you about how to get thousands of new prospects for your business for only 0.0005 cents each using N8N. All right. So let's get to this. I don't want to assume that everybody understands the customer journey. I want to break that down because everybody doesn't understand marketing fundamentals. For those of you who do, you can skip this, and I have a link right in the description where you can jump right where I get to the workflow and start breaking that down. All right. But for those of you who want to get the fuller context, I want to take time and make sure that I reach everybody in this presentation because we're all not on the same level, and my job is to educate you. So if you don't understand the customer journey, then you most likely may not really benefit from how important this presentation is concerning getting all these prospects for a business. All right. So when we talk about the customer journey, it starts with prospects. Prospects become leads. Leads become customers, and customers become fans, and they give referrals for your business. They're basically like free advertisement for your business. In today's presentation, I want to focus on prospects. All right. Because there's a difference between a prospect and a lead. A prospect is someone who you believe is a good fit for your business, a good target for your business. They can benefit from your products and services, right? A lead is someone who has shown interest in your business, right? A prospect hasn't shown any interest in your business. And so we all start at prospects. We start talking to strangers who we believe is a good fit, a good target for our business. And so that's what I want to focus on, is helping you to get prospects for your business. All right. And so when we look at prospects, going door to door is a method of reaching prospects. Flyers are handed out to prospects. Business cards are handed out to prospects. Online radio and TV ads are used to reach prospects. Billboards that you see on the side of roads are designed for prospects. Cold emailing, cold calling targets prospects, and that's what we want to focus on. Cold emailing, cold calling, targeting prospects. Now, in order to reach prospects, you have to know where they are. In order to email or call a prospect, you have to know their email address and their phone number. So if I don't see an email address or a phone number or some kind of way, an address to get a hold of the prospect, then technically, that's a wasted record for me. All right. I have to have some kind of way to get a hold of the person and present my offer to them. Okay. Now, in this presentation, I want to show you how to get thousands of new prospects for only just 0.0005 cents each. That's basically 1/200th of a penny. Think about that. That's 200 new prospects for just 1 penny. Okay, so for $1, you can get 2,000 prospects. $10 will get you 20,000 prospects, right? And then you could reach out to those prospects by email, which is what I recommend. Right now, why is this important? Because any business who's rational, they want more prospects. The more prospects they have, the better their chances are of getting leads. Okay. And the reason why this is also so beneficial is because this is a very, very, very affordable way to get new prospects for your business. All right. And the cool thing is this process is automated. All right. Let's keep going. So we're focusing on prospects. The more prospects you get, then you can get leads. The more leads you get, you can get customers. The more customers you can get, and you can serve those customers well, you give them good products and good services and good customer service, they're going to become fans, and they're going to be giving out referrals for your business and just advertising for free. All right. Now, I want those of you stay to the end, right? Stay to the end because I want to show you how I'm going to show you how you can get your hands on this N8N workflow. So stay to the end. Don't go halfway and then quit. Right? Stay all the way to the end. All right, and I'll show you how you can get access to this N8N workflow. All right, now for those of you who don't know, today is what, February 23rd. About 2 days ago, I created a school community, and it's only $9 a month, and it's called AI Agents, Funnels, and CRM. In that community, I give out workflows. You get access to me. I give you discounted one-on-one consultation. We also have a co-working session Monday through Friday, where we can all jump on a Zoom call together, and we basically help each other out with whatever they're trying to accomplish, right? And so if you want to be a part of that community, we do deeper dives into these workflows, and I show you how to do it, and I show you the business concepts behind the workflow automations, marketing funnels, and CRM, and how they all tie in together, right? It's not just AI agents working by itself and then the CRM is over here. No, they all work together. And so if you join that community, it's only $9 a month. You're going to get a wealth of information. For those of you who don't want to spend $9, I get it. You can join the free Facebook group. It's called AI Agents, Funnels, and Smart CRM. And for those of you who want to work with me, you want me to help you build your AI automation. You want me to help you build your marketing funnels. You want me to help you come up with CRM strategies and how to, get all these tools working together. You can work with me by simply going to samuelgenos.com and fill out the form to schedule an appointment. All right. So let's get to the fun stuff. All right. Here's the fun stuff. Let's go into N8N. All right. So here we are. We are N8N. And what I want to do is I basically just want to run this workflow, and then I'm going to go through each step by step. All right. And so basically I have two Google Sheets. One is called Pagination and Extraction Tracker, and then the other one is called Prospect List. And I basically have city, first name, last name, URL, email, phone, followers, industry, and profile summary. I also have a website and other links, but I'm not going to cover that because this workflow doesn't fill that out. There's some additional steps that need to be done, and I want to show you how to just get this step in just one pass of your workflow automation, the simplest way possible. All right. So if I go back to my workflow, I'm just going to hit test, and this is going to run. And so now it's scraping the data. I'm only getting 10 records because I told it only to get 10 records. It's parsing that data, and now that it parsed it, it's basically looping through each record, and it's using the LLM. I'm using GPT-4o Mini because I don't really need that much brain power. It's just using that to just extract first name, last name, city, industry, email, phone number, followers from the actual record. And then once it's done, it's going to insert it into the prospect list, and then it's going to update the pagination to let me know that, okay, it completed it. So if I go to the prospect list, here are the 10 records that it entered. All right. And so notice how it puts city, because that's what I filtered it on. And then it gives me all the, first names and last names. Notice how some of them don't actually have a name. Some people just put Charlotte. Some people didn't put a name. Some people just put a first name, not a last name. So the LLM can't just make up data. It can only give you what's there. Right. But notice that it gave me the URLs for everybody. For this one, I got a little bit of emails actually. And for this one, I got one phone number. I got I got a bunch of followers. I got the industry, right? And then I have the profile summary, right? And so now notice that in this particular case, I actually didn't get as many emails that I thought I was going to get, right? And sometimes that happens, right? So what I can do is I can just come back over here and I can say, okay, let's jump to page 2, right? And I'm going to switch that to false, right? Because the LLM is not going to make up information. It's just only going to give you what's there, right? Because I'm basically saying, give me Instagram, give me the owner, let's look at Charlotte, give me I'm looking for Gmail, emails, and now we're going to jump to page 2, right? And so now I'm just going to run this again, the exact same one, but this time, because I updated it, it's going to now jump to page 2 of that search. And so now it's going through the next batch, and it's going to pull out information for that as well. And so as this is running, we're up to 7 records, 8 records, 9, and then finally 10. And now it's going to update the prospect list and then mark as complete. And so if I go to the prospect list, right, notice that it gave me some more, and I got a little bit more emails, right? And I'm actually kind of glad that we're kind of getting this, because you can see the you can see how how the process is giving you data, but there are cases where you don't get data, right? But again, you're only paying 0.0005 cents for this, right? So it's not costing you an arm and a leg, right? And I think we have about what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and this one we got about 11 out of 20. We only got about like two phone numbers, right? We still got a bunch of other contact information, ways that we can get a hold of them, but it won't be by email, right? So now let me walk you through, and I'm glad that this showed up because I want to give you guys the practical approach, because some people try to make it sound like every single record has data that you can just email, and it's like, no, this is not a perfect world, right? But we can use AI and we can use the technology to make this world, to make our work easier, all right? And make it easier for what we're trying to do. All right, so let's go back to the N8N automation, and let me kind of walk you through this process. All right, so if we, let's start at let me start at the stage one. Start at stage one. Got some lights in here, so those lights kind of hot. But all right, so if we start at stage one, this is just a manual step. You just click on the workflow, and that would just start the workflow by just clicking test automation. And then it goes to the second step. And what the second step does is it reads this pagination, an extraction tracker, and it basically says, okay, this is what I want to search. I want to search for Instagram.com. I want to search by this position. I want to search this city. I want to search by people who have that email. And as you can see, for the most part, Google tries to pull it back, and then I want to search by what page, and then I can limit the total records I want to return. Like in this case, I just only wanted to return 10 records max, and I wanted to bring it back in batches of 10. And so I did page one and I did page two. I could have just said the limit is 100 and batch size is 10, and I could have said start at page one, and it would have basically it would have automatically went to page one, page two, page three, page four automatically. But because I said page one and I gave it a limit of 10 and a batch size of 10, it only looped once, okay? And then what it does, it marked it as complete because it doesn't want to rerun it if it already completed. So it marks it as complete, and then it turns active to false, and then it lets me know how many it processed so far. So if I wanted to continue this, I could say page 3, and then I can just keep updating it. But what I like to do is I like to just say my limit is 300. And I'm gonna tell you why I want my limit to be 300. Because I just realized this, Google only returns about 300 to 400 records anyway. They will say, yeah, we found 1.5 million CEOs, right? But they're not going to show you 1.5 million. They're only going to show you a max of 300 to 400 records. And so what I suggest, right, I know that kind of sucks, and I talk about workarounds, right? But they're not going to give you more than 300 to 400 records, right? So it doesn't matter if they say we found 500,000 records, we found 10,000 records. They're only going to give you 300 to 400 per keyword match, okay? So what we have to do, what I suggest is make your limit, in this case, my limit, I would ultimately make this 300 or maybe even 400, right? But I typically stick to 300, and then my batch size is 100. So that means for every time I search, I get back 100, it jumps to page 2, I get the next 100, it goes to page 3, and I get the next 100, right? So typically I would have done it like 1, this would have been 300, and this would have been 100. And so it would have said, okay, it would have said, give me a result, give me 100 per result, that's the batch size, and then it would have said, okay, now go to page 2, give me the next 100, go to page 3, give me the next 100, and then it would stop. And what will happen, this would be marked as completed, active would be false, and then process would have been 300, and I'm done for this particular process, for this particular row. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to add in another one. I'm going to say, this is the workaround. I'm going to say Instagram, right? I'm still going to look for owner, right? But this time I'm going to say Concord, right? And I'm going to say gmail.com. I'm going to say page 1, Let me take off that hyperlink. Why is that? I don't want the hyperlink there. Yeah, I'm gonna say page 1. I'm gonna say limit is 300, batch size, right? And then this would be false, and this would be true. Process would be 0. You can only have one active row at a time, so that when the workflow automation, at least that's the way I built it. I'm sure there's a way to optimize it. I just haven't got to that point yet. But you can only have one active row. And so now it will process this, right? And it will give you 300. And then I can create another one, right? And I don't want to rush in this presentation because I really want you all to get the sense of this. I can say Huntersville, you know, because that's another town that's right over. And I can say gmail.com. I can say 1, 300, 100, false. This would be false because I wouldn't run that yet. I would only run one at a time. Let me come back over here, and I would turn this off. Now, I can expand my automation to basically pull back all the trues and basically just loop through and say, okay, let's process this, and then let's process this, right, and just let it run. And for those of you who may want to know how long does this take, well, I did some benchmark tests on my server, and I just went to render.com, and I'm using a server that only costs $7 a month. And basically I can get 100 prospects. I can process 100 prospects. This whole workflow can run in 4 minutes. So in 4 minutes, I can get the data, scrape the data, parse the data, loop through, call the LLM, how many times I ever need to call it, extract the data, and then store it into the Google Sheet, right? And so I can do that basically within 4 minutes, okay? And I can throw more money at the server, and I can add more CPU and stuff like that, memory, and then I'm sure I can speed it up, okay? But I wanted to see how much I can get with just the $7, because I wanted to stick to like real world scenarios. Everybody doesn't have money they can just keep throwing at it, right? At least not yet, until they start getting more customers and expanding their business, all right? So this is how I would set it up, but I only did 10. Let me just update the first one. I only did the first one. I did it like this because, you know, and I think it had process. I did it like this, you know, page 1, limit 10, batch size. You know, I started off like that. Let me just go back to false and true, like for that. I'm just showing you how I would have started it originally. And I only did it like this because I'm doing a presentation. And so I want the records, I want the process to run a little bit faster. Okay. But ideally you would actually do it like this. The limit is 300 and give me batches of 100, and only one of these would be true. So this one, I'm just gonna act like this one finished already, like I processed it all. So I'm gonna change that to true. This will be false. And let's say this would have said like 300. Even though I did 20, I'm just using an example. And then it would have jumped to the second row, right? And it would have ran that. And then I would have to manually come in here and just change it to, I would just change active to true, and then it would run that. And so this is how I would do it until I optimize this better. Hey, and if you join the group, the $9 a month school community, you know, I'll work on this and show you how I can optimize this, where you can just like fill this with all the surrounding cities and then just run it one time, and it just goes through record by record by record by record by record. So that is possible, right? I just haven't done that yet, all right? Okay, so basically this particular step, right, that's what that's doing. It's basically, if I open this up, if I open up that particular step, right, it's just opening up that document, and I'm also filtering. I'm basically saying active column is true and completed column is false, right? And then I also had to go into Google. I'm not going to show you how to set up a Google account because you're going to need this, right? So you are going to have to go to cloud.google.com in order to pull these documents, right? And you got to set that up. And so that's a whole nother video, and I'll have that for later for you guys, right? And you're also going to need Oxylabs, and I didn't get to that step yet, so I don't want to cover that yet. But for the steps that we're on, you got to have a Google Cloud account, and you got to get your API and set up your username and your API keys and all that. So in this particular pagination extractor, the first thing I have to do is I have to go to my credentials to connect with, and I want to connect to I first bring the the Google Sheets onto the canvas, and then I have to set up my connections. So my connections connect to, it says credentials to connect with, and I click on that, and I have to go to create new credentials. But being that I already have one, I already have it set up, and then I have to just put in my client ID and my secret key, and that will authenticate. Once I got that, I can tell it that, okay, I want to connect to sheets within the document, and then I want to get rows. That's the operation, and then it's going to say, okay, where do you want this document from? I can do it from a list by URL or by ID. I did it from list, and then I just put in. It actually shows me the name of my document. So here are the names of my document, and I chose pagination and extraction tracker, right? Because it's connected to my Google. And then you also have to select, which sheet. And so I only have one sheet, so I just selected that from the drop down, the sheet. And once I pull that in, it automatically gives me the options to say, okay, well, what filters do you want? And I can click this drop down. These are all the fields that are in that sheet. And so I wanted to filter by active, and I wanted to filter by complete, right? So if the row is active, we go back here. If my row is active, which is this one right here, this is the one it's going to pick up. So I only want to have one active row at a time, right? Again, I can optimize this. I just haven't gotten to that point, because that's eventually what I would do, is I would optimize this, where I can just press the button one time, it'll just go through all these records and extract it. And I would expect this automation to probably take, depending on how many rows I have in here, it might take a half an hour, it might take an hour, depending on if I have thousands of records to parse, right? So I could just set it and forget it. All right, so let me go back here. So it's going to filter just by those. It's going to filter by active and by completed. And so once it has that, it's going to pass that to the next step. Now, this next step is a little bit tricky. It's a pagination, because it's like, how do I get it to loop through the pages? Because I say start at page 1, and I'm saying I don't want to get no more than 300 records, but I want it in batches of 300. Well, if you take 100, I want it in batches of 100. If I take 100 and divide it by 300, right? 100 divided by, what is it? 100 goes into 300 three times, so I'm gonna have 3 pages. Does that make sense? And so that's what this is. This is basically just a code snippet. Right? This is a code node. You just drag it on from the left. You just go here to hit the plus sign, and you just type in the word code, and that will pull in the code node. And if I open this up, you're gonna see I just have a code snippet. Now, I know some of you may not know JavaScript, and I get that. All you gotta do is just get this workflow and just copy it, do cut and paste. And all this basically does, it just takes, the page that I'm working with, it takes the limit and the batch size, and it basically creates an array, and on the array, it's gonna say like page 1, page 2, page 3, right? And then, so now it has a list of pages, right? It's going to have page 1, page 2, page 3. And then what that's going to do, that's the output of that code. And then it's going to, I have this loop. This is called, because I actually changed my label, this is called loop over items, okay? I have that loop over items, and what that does, it loops through whatever is coming in. And so if I look at the incoming basically is going to have, a list of numbers. In this case, I only have 1 because I processed it one by one. But if I were to process this for all 3 pages at the same time, right, depending on how many pages, depending on what my start page is, depending on what my limit is, and then depending on what my batch size is, that will determine how many items are in my array. So for example, let's say I want to bring back 100 records. My limit, if I go back here, let's say my limit is 100, right? So let's say my limit here is 100. And my page, I'm starting at page 1, but my batch size is 10. Well, 10 goes into 100 10 times, so I'm going to have 10 pages. Page 1, page 2, page 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? In this case, if my limit is 300, but my batch size is 100, right, then 100 goes into 300 three times, so I'm going to have 3 pages. And so basically what this set pagination is doing is basically saying, based on your limit and based on based on your limit and based on your batch size, how many pages do I have to cycle through? Okay, and so it's going to send that array to this loop pages, and then the loop pages, which is my loop over items, is just going to loop through. It's going to say page 1, and it's going to pass. It now is going to call the scraper. And if I open up the scraper, the first thing I need to let you all know, to do this step, this is the HTTP request, which means you got to go to the plus sign over here on the right, and you got to click on HTTP request, right? And you want to drag that onto your canvas. Now notice the loop over items, I'm going out of the loop into the input of the HTTP request, right? I'm calling mine a scraper because I changed my label to scraper, right? And I'll tell you why I put labels on these later. Matter of fact, I'll tell you right now because I might forget. I put labels on these because you can basically it's easier to articulate it when you're talking about it. And also you could take this and you can take a screenshot and you can just put it into ChatGPT and just copy the screenshot right into ChatGPT. And ChatGPT will actually give you a whole breakdown of your AI automation, and which is cool. And then you could tweak it, and you didn't have to write all that stuff, right? So I like to be very thorough with like my labels and stuff like that, right? So let me go back into the HTTP request, which I'm calling scraper. Notice in order to perform this step, you have to have an API to call. You either have to build your own or you have to use one that's already built. I'm a full stack developer, so I know how to build APIs, but I don't want to build an API for every little thing. And so I found a company called Oxy Labs. I actually had trouble with this step. There's so many scrapers out there, and they all are not created equal. And so far, this one has been the best for what I'm trying to do. Okay, this is also affordable for what I'm trying to do, and it's also affordable for the people that I'm trying to talk to and the businesses that I'm trying to serve. When I think about all that, you got to think about costs. You got to think about the capabilities of the API. You got to think about the reliability of the API, the customer support of the API. And all those 4 things you need to take into consideration, because you don't want to just connect to an API and then you're running it and it's very expensive, because you're going to be running these things a bunch of times for all different types of clients and stuff. And so, you don't want the cost just going through the roof. So I wanted to find an API that's very affordable. And so Oxy Labs is one of those companies, And so if we go back into here, into the N8N for that step, in this case, my method has to be post, right? And then the URL has to be, this is the URL that you would get from Oxy Labs. They'll tell you what URL to call. And then I have to, my authentication is generic credential types. And then my generic auth type is just basic auth, right? And then where in the basic auth, I simply have to click the drop down and create a new credential, but I already have one created, right? And the good thing is you only have to do this one time. So all the other automations you set up, it's gonna save it, right? And so I created, I went to new credentials, and then I just chose the Oxy Labs. I gave it. Let me open it up. So I labeled it Oxy Labs, and I just passed in my user and my password, right? This is a demo that I'm showing you also. You could try to steal my credentials if you want. It ain't gonna work for you. So, but I set that up. You have to pass that in, right? And then you just save it and you can close it, right? And so now that's set whenever you need it. It doesn't matter if it's another workflow. You don't have to do that step again. You just have to select it from the drop down, okay? Then I keep going down. I want to send some headers, so I'm sending a user agent header, right? And I'm actually choosing specify headers using fields below. Again, for those of you who may be like, oh my God, this video is taking a long time. It's supposed to take a long time because my job is to walk you through each step, right? Because I know some of you're not going to be able to just buy these things from me, because I'm not just giving this stuff away for free, but I am giving the knowledge away for free. So I want to make sure I'm going slow through this, at least slow enough that I think I'm going slow, so that you can pay attention and follow along, and you'll be able to create this yourself. For those of you who don't want to spend the time creating this yourself, or even with these instructions, it's still a little bit complicated, join the group. You'll get access to this workflow, and then you'll have access to me, and I'll be able to walk you through and help you, get through the parts that you're stumbling over, right? Okay, so for the specify headers, I chose using fields below, and then I clicked the add parameter, and the first one was user agent, and then I passed over my my value. For those of you who want to know what your user agent is, you can actually, if you're using Chrome, you can actually just open up Chrome, and you can go to inspect, and you can go to console, and you can just type in, I think it's navigation dot, man, I should have wrote that down. Let me chat GPT it real quick, because I got it from, let me just, real quick. How do I get my user agent within Chrome? And hopefully ChatGPT doesn't talk my head off and it just quickly gives me the answer. Oh yeah, this is it, navigator.useragent. So navigator.useragent, I'm just going to copy it. This is if you're using Chrome. If you're trying to use something else, ask ChatGPT. But I can just type in navigate user agent, and it's going to give it to me here, and I can just copy that, and then you can just bring that in. If you're using like Edge or something else, ChatGPT it, you'll easily just ask for, how do I get my user agent? And so now that I have my user agent, I would just come back here, and that would be the value that I would just paste here. And then I have to add another parameter, and it's going to be content dash type, capital C and a capital T, and I'm just going to put application /JSON, all lowercase, and then I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to turn on send body, and then for the body content type, that's going to be JSON. For the specified body, that's going to be using JSON, and I'm just going to basically paste. This is the format that I'm going to use. I just paste the entire JSON in there. And for those of you, let me just open it up so you can see it for yourself. For those of you who want to see, this is basically what you have to put. But I have some variables in there. And so everything you see in green is a variable. And this is also a variable, even though it's not in green. That's the start page. I'm pulling that in from the incoming data, right? Because all these steps have incoming steps, incoming data, and outgoing. Right? So the left side is for the incoming, the right side is for the outgoing, right? And so I'm basically just putting in variables. So instead of me writing, Instagram.com, it's pulling from that document, my pagination and extraction, right? Instead of me writing the position, I'm just pulling it in from the Google sheet, right? And so that's what's nice about it. And then you can have these variables and you can pull them in, right? And so just, take a quick, I'll give you guys like 2-3 seconds, you can pause the video, take a screenshot, and this is what you got to put. Or you literally just have to cut and paste, right? Just copy what I have and paste it, right? And so if I back out of this now, and so what else? And that's it. That's it for this particular step. I can then just back up, right? And now I can move on to the next step. What the next step does, actually, let me open this up, back up again. When you run this, what you're going to notice is that it's going to bring back the HTML. The right side is the HTML from that particular HTTP execution. It's the HTML, and I can view it in JSON, and it's just the raw HTML. It's raw HTML, but it's put inside of a JSON. So you just got to remember that, right? And it's just it pulls all that in, right? And so if I can now go to the next step, because now it's taking the output from the scraper, the HTTP request, and sending it to the HTML parser. And I believe that this is exactly what this is called, HTML parser. Let me just double check. If I click the plus sign and I type in HTML, yeah, it says work with HTML. And if I click that, it's extract HTML content. That's what it's called, extract HTML content. And so I just changed the label of mine and called it HTML parser. Okay. Moving along. So if I open that up, all I'm basically doing is I will first go to my operation, and I would change my operation and say extract HTML content, That's what I'm selecting. For the source data is JSON. The JSON property, notice how I did the JSON property. Because it's a JSON, I have to say results, open square brackets, 0, because that means index 0, close square brackets, dot content, right? It's results, and then open square bracket. For those of you who kind of understand JSON, this is how you write, a reference to the content. So if you don't understand it, just literally copy what I got. And then for the key is basically the label or the key, the property that you want to send on when you're in your output. So this can actually be whatever name you want it to be, but whatever name you put, you also got to remember that in your next step. So it's called extracted text, and if you see over here in the output, here's the extracted text, and then this is another key point. I analyze the HTTP output, and I recognize. Let me just go here. These are just like little tips you can. If you go to Google, and let's say I'm gonna do the same site. I'm gonna say sites, Instagram owner, and then I'm gonna say Charlotte, right? And then, right, because that's the search that I just did, right? Instagram.com, and if I hit enter, right, you're gonna see it's gonna bring back all the stuff for Charlotte. Now, if you notice, these are just records, right? And what I did is I right clicked and I went into the inspect of this, because I wanted to know what was the, what's the HTML value that I want to parse by. And so if you notice, each record has a div class of MJJYUD, right? And so I noticed that pattern, and I noticed that this is the pattern all the time. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Some people might be saying, well, Sam, why did you do that? Like, you could have just returned it as a JSON. And I'm like, yeah, but when you return it as JSON, you lose some of the HTML. And I wanted to get stuff like followers. And I noticed that on the APIs that were returning the data as JSON, it wasn't capturing the follower information. Like you see here, like 4.1K followers and all that. Like, I want that information. Like, and if you notice in my Google Sheet, look, I'm pulling in followers. You won't get this if your API is returning JSON. You might get a little bit of it, but you're gonna miss some of it. Okay, so I just want to leave that as a disclaimer. So I went through that research. I did that. I checked it out. I was able to figure that out. So that's all. I just wanted to find what is the common denominator when I'm looking at this data. Okay, and so if you notice, as I hover over it, you can see, right, each one is a record. Now this first one, I think this first one is like, I don't know what's up with that first one, so don't ask me. I'll be giving you the wrong answer. But if you notice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I think this is like the 10th one. It still picks this up, and I still get the 10 records down here. Something about this first one is a little bit different than, I don't know if this is like, if they paid, if there's some SEO or something that they're getting that number one spot or whatever, but I noticed that it gets rendered a little bit different. It's not wrapped in the same div class, okay? So I just wanted to point that out for you all. So when you're looking at this, that's what I'm doing here. And this is pretty cool that N8N thought about all this when it's parsing. It's like, okay, I'm basically telling this parser, give me all the HTML content within this div. This div that has this particular CSS class name, give me all the contents in it. And here's what it does. This is why this is pretty cool. Because if you notice, when I hover over it, the entire record is encapsulated in that div, which is good, right? Because I'm basically saying, give me that as a data chunk, right? Give me that as a chunk of data. And so that's what this step is doing right here. This step, this HTML parser, it's basically extracting the data and turning them into just data chunks. So each record becomes a data chunk. It's just a chunk of the HTML for that record, which is pretty cool. And I'm like, okay, great. Now that I got that chunk, right, you can see it in the output. You can see it in the output that it's an array, and each item in the array is a data chunk of just that one record. So it basically took the entire HTML and turned it into chunks. It got rid of everything else, and it only just said, I'm a return just the chunk of data that you're interested in. So all the other metadata and all that other stuff, I don't care about that. I just want the search result records, right? And this HTML parser kept me from having to write code, because traditionally I would have to write some more JavaScript to do that, or I would have to, use a JavaScript parser, and I would lose this information. So I didn't want that. So this HTML parser was the right fit for what I'm trying to do. And then, so for every item, notice what it does. When it's done, it goes to the next record, right? Which is the next page, rather. So it says page 1, we're going to scrape. We're going to pull whatever the batch size is. So in my earlier case, I did a batch size of 10. So this was 10. This scraper brought back 10 records, and then it brought back just in HTML, right? And then this HTML parser parsed the HTML and was like, ooh, I got 10 records from that HTML, 10 divs, and within those each div is a record of the Instagram profile. And then it loops through to page 2 and does the same thing. And then when it's done, right, it moves to the merge page results. Now I'm taking, if I open this up, now I'm taking my multiple arrays, because page 1 has its array, page 2 has its array, page 3 has its array, and I'm just simply merging them into one array, right, for the next step, right? So I'm just prepping the data for the next step. And what I'm doing is I have this line of JavaScript. Again, you don't have to write JavaScript. If you don't know JavaScript, don't worry about it. Just copy what I have, right? You can just copy this, right? And you can pause the video and just copy that. For those of you who are in the school community, you can just get access to the entire N8N workflow. For those of you who's going to stay to the end, I'll show you how you can get it, all right? It's only $9 a month, right? That's that's almost the cost of a pack of eggs nowadays, right? All right, so I probably shouldn't be laughing at that, because $9 for a pack of eggs is crazy. Okay, so you don't have to be a JavaScript expert, and you can just copy what I have, all right? And so what it's simply doing is turning each item into a chunk of data. It's just an array, and I have chunk. Each of these chunks represents HTML of the profile, the Instagram profile. That's all that is. And then now I basically prepared the data for the next step, right? We're almost to the finish line. This is the last step, which is, right, so remember, let me zoom out a little bit. So the first step was, target audience setup, which my pagination and extraction tracker. Then it was the extract HTML results. And then the third one was extract useful information and store it, right? And so that's where we are now. But by the time it gets to this step, all the data has been prepped, right? So all the records has been prepped into one array. Now it can just loop through that array. And the only thing that I'm doing the thing that I'm doing at this step, now I got to bring in the AI, right? I got to bring in a large language model. And the reason why I got to bring it in is because if you notice, each chunk of data is just HTML stuff. It's just a bunch of HTML. And so I didn't want to have to write code to parse through that. So I was like, oh, this is a good job for the HTML. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm looping through each record. Here's the loop over items. And simply for each item, I'm passing it to the AI agent. And if I open this up, you're going to see what it's saying. And now for this one, you're also going to need an OpenAI account. So before I go, you're going to need an OpenAI account. And this is the same thing like everything else. You got to, you bring this in. I'm going to first drag that on first. You have that, but then you got to bring in your OpenAI down here. And if I open that up, you have to connect to your OpenAI account, right? You're going to see the same option to create a new credential. I already have one. And you're basically you got to put in your API key, right? And you got to put in the base URL, for the OpenAI, this is the base URL. And then I had to pass in my API key, save it, and I'm connected, right? And then I had to choose the model. So the model is GPT 4.0 mini, okay? And there's a reason why I chose GPT-4o Mini, and let me just go back and tell you why. Because I have to be concerned about cost, right? We're talking about analyzing thousands and thousands and thousands of items. I'm going to be running this hundreds of times. I'm actually running this per item, right? Now, I think there is a way to, and even if I wasn't running it per item, even if I batched it all together and passed it like 10 records at a time and told the AI to just process it, I'm still taking up tokens, right? And so what I wanted to find out is I wanted to find out how much it was. I wanted to find out how much it was, and I realized that GPT-4o Mini charges less than GPT-4o. And so when I open this up, like if I open this up here, see, for every call, it will tell me my token usage for each item. Right, it's telling me for each item what my token usage was. And so I basically just took this along with the model. I kind of like highlighted this and then I just spit it out into Notepad, and then I just sent the question to GPT, and I said, how much does this cost, right? And I'll show you guys how to do that real quick. If I just take this and I open up into Notepad, because you may be using some other AI model, and you want to. This is a good thing to know. You want to make sure that you're staying within budget. And then I'm just going to copy the model name, and I'm basically just going to. I don't have to put this in a. I'm just taking out the actual. So token usage was 100. Prompt tokens was 1150, and then the total tokens was 1250, right? And so I'm just basically just formatting this a little bit, and I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to go back to ChatGPT, and I'm going to say, how much does this cost? Be very, very brief. Very, very brief. Because sometimes the LLM just responds with too much text. I just want a simple cost, right? And so for this particular one, right? So this particular one, it's telling me the rate. It costs 0.00019, right? Which is not bad, right? For that item, okay? And so, I like to know that, because you got to take that into consideration when you're doing the math, So if you're trying to process, let's say 20,000 records, and you would take this times 20,000, right? And that would be your cost. That would be your LLM cost. And then you got to take your API cost, right? The cost to call Oxylabs, right? And what's nice with Oxylab, they charge $49 a month, and you get like 36,000 requests. But remember, each request brings back 100 records. So that's roughly 3.6 million records you bring back. You can process all that, but your cost is gonna go up for the LLM, right? So I just did a quick math on the step here. I did a quick math on the step for what I'm doing, and I'm like, okay, what if I were to do this for 200,000? So I got my $49 a month. I get 36,000 API requests, and 36,000 requests times 100 results. That's 3.6 million prospects. And then, of course, probably 80% of this will have emails, right? Maybe even 75% may have emails, so I will lose some records, right? And then for each LLM request, right? Because remember, I'm calling an LLM right here, right? This step is calling the LLM, and I'm doing it per item, per prospect. And I'm like, give me the first name, extract the first name, last name, and all that. And so on GPT-4o Mini, it's about 0.000. Mine's was a little bit less on that one that I just showed you, but it fluctuates, right? And so I got it at 0.00255. And so if I said, okay, well, what if I'm going to do 200,000 requests? 200,000 requests times 0.000255 is only $51. So I took the $51 plus the $49 and it comes up to 100, and I just divided, that by 200,000 prospects, and it comes up to 0.005 per prospect, which is not bad. That's not bad, to spend $100 and get 200,000 prospects. That's crazy. You know what I mean? And if you didn't want to do that, you could say, okay, I'm going to get 10,000. When you start off with 10,000, it'd be less, right? Now there is a pay as you go. While I'm here, there is another company. I think it's called Bright Data. They have a pay as you go model. So you don't even have to pay a monthly fee. You can say, okay, I'm going to spend $5 or $10. And that $10 will get you 20,000, 30,000, prospects. So that's not bad, if you have the whole system set up. And we can talk about that more later on in the group. All right. So let me go back to the extraction. All right. I hope you're learning from this, because I want to take my time going through this so that you can really get the sense of it. I don't want the video to be too long, but I want it to be, meaningful. All right. So when I bring the tools agent on, when I bring the AI agent on here, when I bring the AI agent on here, I'm going to select tools agent, right? And then source for the prompt, I'm just going to say define below. And then notice what I put here. Let me expand this. I call my label data chunk, but I'm just putting it as expression, data underscore chunk, colon, and then I just put a variable. And I'm basically saying, here's the variable. It's just this chunk of data, right? And then I have my system message. You basically go here to, let me skip this step for now, and then I go down. I have system message. You are a, let me expand this. Can I expand this? I can't expand it. It says you are a data analyst. Get the first name, last name, URL, email, phone number, number of followers, industry, and profile summary from the data chunk. Remember, the data chunk is right up here where I've specified that, right? And remember, I had to switch this to expression, the data chunk. The text had to be expression because I'm using an expression in here. And then it goes on to say the output should be a JSON object, no additional commentary. Because sometimes ChatGPT likes to add, it has a tendency sometimes to be verbose. It's just to say, to add more text, to add more wording. And the wording is not necessary in this case. And so I'm like, no additional commentary. And then I also put just a format. I was like, here's the first name, last name. I gave it like a JSON format. And then I said, put null if the value does not exist, right? And then to make it even more, the output more concrete, I said, require specific output format, and I turned that on. And the moment you turn that on, it's going to, you got to create a structured output parser. So you would just hit that plus sign, and then you would select, I think it's called structured output parser, and you just drag that on and make sure it's connected to the AI agent here, the tools agent, right? And then in my structured output parser, right, I basically said the schema type is defined below, right? I select the define below, and then this is the structure. I was like, I just want first name, last name, URL, email, phone number, phone, followers, industry, profile summary, and they all just have a null value, right? And then you can see this is how it's going to look on the output, right? Once you run everything, you'll start seeing the output, okay? Now we can move on. Once it does that, it loops again, and it just basically does this for each item. It just loops through and does this for each item, right? And then when it's done, it goes to this step, and this step is going to add it to the prospect list. It just takes those records and it just adds it to the prospect list. And let me just show you how that looks on the inside. This is just a Google Sheet. And to bring the Google Sheet on, you can actually just go here, hit the plus sign, and I think you can just go to Google, type Google, and you can just select Google Sheets, right? And then when I'm in there, now remember, I already connected to Google Sheets, and that second step of remember I already went to Google Sheets, and the second step, right? And I already connected. So here I should just have to reuse that connection. So if I open this back up, you're going to see it says, Google Sheet account, right? I already have one. So, if you don't have one, you would click create new credentials. And so if I click on the pencil there, right, I just, pull in my client ID and my secret key, right? This is a test, so you don't have to worry about, and remember, you're going to need a Google Cloud account to do this, right? So I have you can have more than one Google Cloud account. You can have more projects, and then each of those projects can have its own client secret keys and all that kind of stuff, right? So you can copy mine. It's not going to work because I'm going to delete it. All right, so you don't have to worry about, oh my God, you displayed your key. It's just a test key. All right, and then so once you have that set up, you're going to say resource, and I'm going to say sheet within a document. Operation, I'm going to append a row, right? I don't want to do anything else. I just want to append a new row. And then it's going to say document. I will select it from the list. This time I'm selecting the prospect list, and I'm using from list, right? Remember the field here? It says from list. And then to the right, I'm going to select prospect list. And then the sheet is from list, and I'm just going to select sheet, right? Now you may have more than one sheet in your Google Sheets, and so you would select the appropriate one. And then for the mapping column, right, I said map each column manually, and that's what I did. And so I basically pulled it all in, and I was like, okay, my city is not coming from the parser. My city is coming from my document, right? I'm basically saying whatever city I had here, when you parse it, store that in the record, right? So that means for every prospect it brought in also the city, right? Because I told it what city I wanted to search by. And so now when I'm looking at my prospect list, I can quickly filter by the city in this Google Sheet, right? And so now that I have that, I got city, I have first name, right? All these other ones are just connected to, I'm just dragging it I'm just dragging the first name into the first name. Right over here on the left side, dragging the last name into the last name. Right, that's all I'm doing. It's dragging. So let me give you an example. If I took out first name, it would be empty, and I would just go over here to the left, and I'll just drag that over. Right, that's what I'm doing. Right, and you have to make sure it's on expression and not fixed. And that's it. And so I do that for each field. Right, and I'm done with that. And so then, make sure, nothing on that one. And that's basically all I do, and that's done. And so now it will import all the data into here. And then the final step, yay, we made it to the final step. I'm going to mark the row as complete, right? So now I'm going to go back to this document, and I'm going to say, okay, what record am I on? Let me find a record, update the process to whatever number that needs to be, switch active to false, switch completed to true, and we're done. And so if I open this up, this is another Google Sheet, but this time I'm connected to the first one that I was connected to earlier. Same thing, Google Sheets. You got to, you either have to create a connection or you should already have one, right? And then the resources select within document. The operation is update row. The document is from list, and then it's the name of that pagination and extractor. That's the name of the document. The sheet is from list, and it's sheet 1, right? And then map each column manually. Now notice what's different is here, column to match. I'm a match on the row number, right? Because I'm going to have the row number in my, my loop that's coming in. So I'm coming from here. I'm going to have, I'm going to have the row number. Let me open this back up. I'm going to have the row number is coming from my pagination and extraction tracker, right? And so I would just basically go to my pagination and extraction tracker, and I would just pull in row number 2, right? And then I'm just going to mark the completed column to true, the active column to false, and then the process. Notice what I'm doing in there. I'm adding the process column plus the limit. So I'm basically saying, okay, for example, let's say this was the one that I was working on, this third one, right? I started off on page 1. My limit is 300, the batch size. What this would do is this will take the process plus whatever the limit was, and so this would end up being 300, right? Now, if you're running this as a smaller batch, it would look something like this. Let's say my limit was, let's say I only ran this once, and my batch size was 10. Then it starts off at 0, so it would be 0 plus 10, right? And then the next time it runs, if I say, okay, run it for 2, page 2, it will start at page 2, and it would say, okay, take process plus the limit, and then this will become 20. Because it's letting me know this is how many records you process, right? This is why I like to do it all at the same time. I say, okay, this will be 1, this will be 300, batch size will be 100, and it will automatically cycle through page 1, page 2, page 3. So by the time it gets to the end, it just knows that, okay, that's going to be 300, and we're moving on to the next record, right? And so that's what basically this does. If you notice, it's, if I expand this, I'm taking the process field plus the limit field. I'm just adding it together, and it will equal whatever it equals, okay? Now, this was pretty good. This was actually a more lengthier video, but I think it's important. My goal is to teach, right? My goal is to show you how I did this and how I set it up. And notice here I had some other scrapers that I was testing, but it just didn't work out. And so this is what I landed on. I hope that this was beneficial for you. I'm almost certain what it was. I learned a lot putting this together, and there was times I was trying to record this and I ran into issues with this scraper. This scraper is what gave me the most headache, because all these scrapers are not made equally. Some are better than others. Some cost more than others. Some are more affordable. Some were working, and then it just stopped working, and I contacted tech support, and they were like, oh, we'll have it up in a couple of hours, and it still ain't up yet, and it's been 3 days. And so I'm not going to call any names, but some of those platforms just didn't work. And then I got to give them credit too. You're doing this on Google, and Google is fierce. They got all kinds of stuff that they're doing, to make this harder for people, but this is valuable information, and all we're trying to do is just automate the process that we can do manually. And sometimes Google fights against these kinds of scrapers and stuff like that. This is still legal. It's just, they don't want people to abuse it, right? And they're gatekeeping. And so for those of you who's looking for a good, affordable way to do this, here it is. Now, let me show you how you can get access to this. For those of you who was paying attention, and you watch this whole 1 hour video, then you already know how to build it, because you can follow along and you can build it. So technically you got it for free. Okay. This took me hours and days to figure out. And based upon what I'm trying to do, I wanted to create something that is kind of like plug and play, not something that works when you're doing a demo, and then when you try to use it in the real world, it doesn't really do what you want it to do, right? I don't want to create videos like that. I want to create stuff that actually works in the real world. Like, you can give this to a client, you know what I mean? Yeah, you may have to tweak 1 or 2 things, but those instructions should come with the workflow as well, right? But in this case, you only need your OpenAI account, you only need the Oxy, the Oxy Labs, and you need to have your Google Cloud, and you'll be able to do all this, and you will be able to generate prospects at will. I'm not gonna kid you. It's not like every single record is gonna have an email, but on average, for what I've been doing, I'm seeing like around a good between 70 and 80% having an email, and that's not bad. If I can generate, so that means if I get like 10,000 prospects, okay, around 7,000 of them, 7,500 of them, 8,000 of them will have an email. I'm not going to complain at that. I spent pennies on this. You see what I'm saying? And not only that, they're going to become leads. Some of them are going to become leads. They're going to become customers, and I'm going to make a ton of money off of that. Right? So I'm not going to complain about a few missing data. I just want to make sure I have a system in place that I can just keep doing this every day, every week, every month. And so imagine every day you're generating prospects. Every week you're generating prospects. Now check this out. Imagine giving that to your clients, right? And every day, every week, they just have this new, influx of prospects that they can use to cold called and cold email. Now remember, sending out cold emails ain't for the lighthearted. You got to know what you're saying. You got to have good copy and all that. So I'm not just saying just go blast 10,000 people and be like, oh, I got 10,000 emails. Let me go blast them. No, you got to write good copy, because those people could just block you. They could just unsubscribe. They could just, not respond. So you want to make sure you take the time and craft a good message. You know what I mean? You don't want to just reach out to them with a haphazard type, copy. You want to make sure your copy is good, right? So let me show you all how you all can get a hold of this. You can join my school community. It's called AI Agents, Funnels, and CRM. It's only $9 a month, right? And in there you will get access. I'm actually going to give this to you for those of you who joined the group. I'm going to give it to you for free. If you join the group, over the next 72 hours, you're going to get this automation for free if you join that group. So that means you're basically getting it for $9 because you had to join, right? And if that sounds like a lot of money for you, then you can kick rocks, right? Because I'm like, that's not a lot of money. Remember, here's what most of you are going to do, right? Matter of fact, this is what all of you will probably do. All you're going to do is you're going to take this and you're going to try to sell it to a company, right? So, okay, well then let me get my cut. Let me get my cut. You're taking my brain and you're going to give it to somebody else, right? So, okay, this is business, right? Because I know that's what you're going to do. You're going to take it, you're going to use it to get ahead, right? All right, so I'm asking you, I just don't want to give this information away for free. This video is the place where I gave it away for free, and if you could follow along, you got it. But I just encourage you to subscribe, like the video, leave a good comment, right, for the YouTube algorithms. But for those of you who like, man, this is a lot of information, I'm trying to keep up. Hey, you just want the easy path. All right, then you can just sign up to the school community, pay $9, get in, and hang out with us, and let's learn together and grow together. And I'll give you access. I'll give you free access if you do it in the next 72 hours. Anybody else who join after the next 72 hours, you still will get it for a discount. I'm going to give it to you for a discount. You won't have to pay a whole lot. But as you can see, I hope you recognize the value of this workflow. This is a powerful workflow that many of you are going to charge your clients money for this workflow. Right? So don't act like, oh my God, he's going to charge for it. Well, duh, because you're going to charge for it. You're going to take what I created and you're going to charge for it. And I don't blame you. I would do the same thing. I'm just being upfront, and I understand the game. I'm a marketer. I'm a business owner. I understand. I understand human psychology. I get it. Right? You want to buy low, sell high. Right? It makes sense. Right? It's capitalism. Right? Let me just get my little cut. Right? Let me get my little cut. If you like this, if you want this, join the group. I'll give it to you. But you got 72 hours, and then I'm gonna be selling it not at the normal rate, but I'll still have a discount for those of you who join later. But it's February 23rd, so you have 24, 25, 26, 27th. On the 27th, it's no longer for free. Even if you join the group, it's no longer for free, but you're going to get it at a discount. And whatever discount I give it to you as, you're going to love it, because you're going to make hundreds and thousands of dollars off of this workflow. And I get it. I understand it. I know the value of this workflow. I hope you all understand the value of this workflow. And if you do, you know it's worth way more than just $9. You know it's worth way more than $49. I could sell this for $500 and you will still make thousands and thousands of dollars. One client will pay you more for this, because you'll most likely charge them a monthly fee for this particular workflow that you didn't even build, right? So it's valuable. I just want y'all to know I understand the value of something that I'm building, all right, of these workflows that I'm building, because I build it for real world scenarios. I don't want to build stuff that don't benefit the clients, right? This will benefit the clients. They will love you for this, all right? So for those of you who want to join the Facebook community, you can go to Facebook, and here's our Facebook community. I just started some of these groups, and I'm not new at programming and automation, but I am new at this particular automation group. We have about 18 members in the free group right now that we just started a couple of days ago. So if you want to join this, it's called AI Agents, Funnels, and Smart CRM. you're more than welcome to join this group. I'll be there as well. And we'll be talking you can ask questions. I'll still be answering questions there. You just will have less access to me, and you'll have less resources, but you'll still be a part of a nice community that can help get stuff done. All right. And then for those of you who want to work with me, you can go to my website, samuelgenus.com, and you can fill out the form on the bottom and schedule an appointment, and I can help you build your AI agents, your marketing funnels, or help you come up with CRM strategies to grow your business, or to help you, for those of you who may be agents, agencies, and you want some help, like maybe working on a project, you need more consultants to help you. Hey, if I'm available, you can reach out to me. We can set up an appointment. And if it's a good fit for me, I can help you complete a project that you have for one of your clients. All right. So that's all I got right now. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I had fun learning this, building it, and I had fun sharing it with you. And I hope you had fun listening and watching this presentation. I hope you've learned a lot. Again, feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to like, subscribe, tell others about this particular channel. I just started this channel. All this is fairly new. I'm not new to this, but my channels are new. And so help me grow the channel. And if you do, I'll continue to provide powerful and amazing and production ready workflows that you can use for your business, your agency, or just for your own personal education. All right. My name is Samuel Genus, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.